Always, we have a motion by trustee Guzman, and a second by trustee Zamora. Trustees, please cast your vote. Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Right, colleagues, we are now moving on to item 3.03, the Teachers Health Trust update. This is not an action item. This is a presentation and discussion regarding the Teachers Health Trust as required for section 12. I 16 of the memorandum of agreement between Clark County School District and the Clark County Association. Tom present. Welcome. Good evening.
Last time we were here, we waited for 4 hours, so so thank you very much. I love how fast it's going. I really appreciate the work you guys do. Tom's up to for the record. President Garcia Morales, Superintendent Jara, Board of Trustees, thank you very much for letting us present the findings of our 2022 fiscal audit. We really continue to do well. We hit our service standards, hitting our financial standards, and we're mostly pleased that we just have a very high degree of confidence that we are going to be in good position to pay back the $35 million loan that we June of 2024. And so things continue to come together for us. So thank you very much. Jan, our CFO will walk through the findings right now of the audit, and then after we're happy to take as many questions or comments as you have.
Welcome. Thank you. Welcome, Janet. We need some help with it. And okay, very good. We have it all. Is it? May I please ask? Thank you. Red light needs to be on. Thank you very, very much.
Good evening. I have to go over first of all the claim settlement process that we had was a good year last year. We had a significant amount of claims liability that we had to go through to settle with the providers and amount. There was some litigation, potential litigation that we were facing, and we were successfully able to mitigate this. The amount total to be around 4.9, so we were able to pay this. So on the screen, the collection claim resolution amount to 253,000. Litigation litigated 4.9, and we were able to settle all the claims prior to 7/1/2021 data sets. Next is the audit result. We continue with the same firm that conducted the audit for 2021. For 2022, our audit finding again is unqualified audit opinion, and that is the best opinion expressed by any audit firm. There is still an ongoing concern, and that ongoing concern has to do with the liabilities on the book. Mainly the $35 million loan that has to be paid back, the IBM and the retiree obligation. So if we're looking at retiree obligation, we're looking at 45.5 million. The IBM is at 33 million. And the No, it's 35. So given the significant amount of liabilities versus the capital to pay back the liability, it is considered a concern as far as financial perspective is concerned. At the end of calendar year 22, this is what we have on the book. We are looking at outstanding claims prior to data service potentially, and this has to do with appeal cases, that might come in as a second level. We need something around 525,000 to cover the liability that we potentially exposed to. For current year IBMP, we are looking at 31.1. So the total claims liability we are looking at the end of December 22 is 31.6. So looking at what we projected during the last meeting for fiscal year 22, and comparing to what we come in as actual, we're very close in terms of net income. Total revenue is favorable by 1.6 mil. Medical expense is unfavorable by 1.8. Admin very close, we favorable by 277,000. Net income pretty much right in at 30. The audited financial statement for the 2 years comparison. Pretty much everything is favorable, with the majority savings in admin. Revenue, we come in 20 mil, 24 mil favorable. Medical expense 20.4. Admin, we saving 38% compared to prior income at 13.5. Net income 48 million, so 48. The reason that we stated this financial statement and all unadjusted FASB 965 is to restate back the accrual basis. So according to the regulation, to be compliant with the FASB 965, the benefits, premium and premium need to be recorded every and received. So it's not on accrual basis. So for this comparison, I restated back to the accrual basis so that we can see the true expense and revenue. So the last portion that I want to go over today is the overall liability versus the fund available to cover the retiree fund. The audited liability seen in comparison from prior year to this fiscal year 22. We see that liability went from 82 to 42. So that 42.4 is at June 22. So what I just presented earlier was December 22. So at December 22, we were sitting at 31.6 mil instead of 42. And our liability keep dropping because our claims is now. Retiree obligation went from 46.8 to 45.5. The funding in the prior year, based on the actual drawing, it was 4.6 billion. If I based on benefit year, it would have been 4.68 instead. For fiscal year 22, we drew only 1.6. The retiree available fund went from 22.7 to 37.1. Now, in fiscal year 21, there was a line of credit taken of 15 million. And in order to get the line of credit, $15 million pledge as collateral. So that has been paid off. And so the 15 million has been released to put back. Overall, the financial statement, we are tracking very well. We should be able to have sufficient reserve to cover the 35 million. However, we still have to work on to accumulate the reserve to cover it. So as I said last year, it is not an issue that we can resolve in a year. So it will take time to build up the cash to meet the time. Any question?
At the end of your presentation. Thank you so much. Colleagues, at this time, we're going to take questions and this is the time to ask questions. Mr. Guzman.
Thank you, President Garcia Morales. I'm just curious at the coverage. I see that you say that you're more balanced, but has that been at the expense of the educators?
Definitely not true. The reality is that the health plan had to do about a 3% shift in what they determined as actuarial value. It was introduced with the ACA, and you know all the exchange plans, they talk about actuarial value. And the Teachers Health Trust, the previous year was actuarial value of about 88%, and now we're at 85%. And so there was a 3% shift at 3% benefit reduction. That was in part of the plan that was shared with you last year. It was and those specific benefits are measured out actuarially. I'll show you that. So there was a 3% reduction in the plan value.
And was that included with the pharmaceutical plan? Is that also added into this balance sheet? Is there for like, you know, insulin and things like that?
No, it's a great question, right? I can't even imagine how your head must spin hearing these numbers, right? And how does it all connect?
Right.
So the actuarial value is the best kind of common denominator to measure the value of a plan. And that takes into account all benefits, medical, hospital, pharmacy, everything across the board. So what we did is it's still a $500 deductible 80/20 plan, and the pharmacy benefits stayed exactly the same as they were the previous year. They didn't change at all. The copays didn't change at all. Frankly, the testimony that's occurred here when people come up and say that their insulin is more, every person that comes up and testifies in front of you, every educator, we look up their account and we look and see, is that the truth or is it not the truth, and how did it impact them? And we respond to every one of those members. And if it was them, and if they're testifying on their behalf or their own circumstance and it could be tracked to their claims, we figure out what's going on, because there wasn't the insulin copay didn't go up, right? But it was how you access the plan. And there was so they might have went to a different pharmacy. There was always some reason, but we were able to get to the bottom of it. Anybody that wants to be helped and wants to have the plan work from, we're able to work with them and get them to work with it. But we did not, this financial result was not by shifting costs to the teachers, but the teachers did contribute more in their premium. And that is part of the last year's result. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Guzman. Mr. Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you both for your presentation tonight. I know you look like you're a little bit out of breath getting here just in time, but thank you for being here. A couple of questions here. And as you kind of like to piggyback, sir, on some of what you just said right now, on covering how things were accessed. We had a lot of questions before in the last year in a couple of the updates having to do with long-term care of, like, say, at cancer treatment centers. I know that was one of the ongoing things. Are those included in all the claims that have been resolved, or do we have any lingering claims in that type of department?
It definitely resolved.
Definitely resolved.
I don't remember the long-term care necessarily, but we did have a real challenge with comprehensive cancer and negotiating that contract, and it was difficult, but it's been resolved. It was one of the earliest ones that was resolved, the beginning of our last, whatever, June, July, when it first starts, absolutely.
Thank you so much. And my second one is just kind of a constituent question. It seems to be, I'm just a little bit of confusion, just to elaborate, when we use the term, the 35 million loan. And just to elaborate, for the public, actually, the district, if I am remembering correctly, we had advanced basically the 35 million as our part of what our contributions would be. Is that correct?
You look
I
at the
don't know
meeting
if Superintendent Hada wants to jump in here, or if you want to elaborate on that.
Thank you, Dr. Jason Gowdy.
Thank you, Jason Getty for the record, Madam President, Trustee Cavazos. So originally, when we began negotiations with the THT, we essentially prepaid 3 months of the contributions that CCSD would normally pay throughout time. And so those have just been put in prepayment. So from an accounting perspective, on our books, they're considered a prepayment of future contributions. On their component, it's considered a loan because they have to essentially pay that.
Thank you very much for the elaboration. I think that explains the question. And so in that kind of construct or that kind of structure, there would not then, because of the way that this was arranged, there would not be any interest charged. Is that correct?
Jason Getty for the record, that is correct.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Galasso. Trustee Books. Trustee Books.
Thank you, Madam President. How has your financial performance in the last year compared to what you did previously?
I'm sorry, compared to the prior year,
Your previous projections?
I was right on. Let's see. So this was what we projected as the week. We projected at all points it's and we can really amount of.
Thank you. And then I know you've had your struggles. How will THT meet challenges in the future while minimizing reductions in benefits or raising?
A significant part of the progress that we've made, in Janet displayed it, but we've reduced the administrative expense, and it showed in that audit year is about 6 million, but it's really tracking closer to 10 million. And so when I think about it, that's money that doesn't do except, and the service has not suffered. I mean, we've gone through things where we had to identify how to introduce virtual customer service visits and different things to accommodate the service. But that's the main money that came out of the system. And when you look at a self-funded group, or you look at somebody who's managing benefits, what you want to do is not waste administrative money, because you want that money to go to benefits. And that's where we've been the most successful. When you look at our numbers, that's where the money, and that's real money, because claims money is always somewhat unpredictable. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going out there. You have to wait till it comes in and try to figure out how to navigate it. We do have projections and discounts and all those things, but the money that Janet's been able to help us to reduce out of the operation is significant. So if it wasn't for inflation, we were tracking all last year that we were expecting not have to give any increase to the teachers, to the educators. And that continues to be our objective. But the main thing that we do to make sure that we don't pass, that costs don't hit the teachers, is we keep our administrative, we run very, very lean. We have to provide a high level of service, but then also we constantly are managing. I mean, the market's always changing, and looking for value-based providers. What we have to do is find the providers that are giving us the best outcome for the money spent. And those kind of operations are starting to surface more and more in Las Vegas. The reality of a lot of the challenges that people talk about with Teachers Health Trust, about access to doctors and quality, that's things you face in this market. I honestly don't care what insurance company you're with. You're going to the same doctors, and the same doctors are having similar problems. Frankly, there's not enough doctors in this market, and it costs us money, right? So, but managing the administrative expenses is something that we focus on all the time because that's money that goes to benefits if we don't spend it on admin.
Thank you, trustee Brooks. Before I take a moment to ask questions, I want to ask trustee Williams if she has any questions at this time. Just go ahead and jump right in. Tom, a couple of questions with respect to THG. When I'm thinking, looking at large urban school districts like ours, and even the comparison of other bargaining units who also use insurance with our district, have you conducted an analysis to determine where THG lands between the cost to the individual who uses THG and their offerings? Is that analysis been conducted?
It's continuous, but we definitely look at surrounding school districts or districts that the school district would think are competitive school districts or similar school districts, and we look at local, also local employers, what their benefits are and how much their employees are charging.
And how do they compare locally in the local market and in comparison to the other employee groups who work here in CCSD as well?
It's a complex question, right? I mean, I don't want to say there's a lot of information, but we compare very favorably, especially on the single, right? On the individual teacher or the teacher plus one. When we look at it, when I was looking at the national average, it was, I'm trying to make this as simple as understandable as possible. I look at it in percent of compensation that is spent towards healthcare, right? And on a national average, it runs at about 11.6%. It's been trending over time. It was 7 or 8, but it's running about 11%. And then they break that 11% into 2 different categories. How much of that is premium? And how much of that actually goes to their out-of-pocket expense, their deductible? And it goes specifically to the deductible. So our aggregate of THT was 10.5%. So we're 1% less than the average. Does that mean anything? Who knows, right? Because it's the whole nation. You have to figure out how to put it into context. So then what I do is I look at our individual teachers were down to less than 3%. Their total, because they have very low contribution. It's very, very favorable for teachers. And a $500 deductible is a very favorable plan. So they're about 1% in their comp and they're about 1% in their benefits. When I look at compared to the fully insured plans that the district has with the support staff and all other plans, we're 2% better on each of those. So if you, and all this is based on a teacher having a $65,000 annual salary, because I think that's the number that you guys use, right? I saw it in a recent report, 65,000 annual for everybody, not one teacher, but average and correct, right? And so we were 2% better than any of the fully insured options that they have. And we actually had less in contributions. So they were all running 10, 12, 14, or they were running 12, 14, and we're running so good. I look at San Diego. San Diego pays for, they pay for dependents, right? And so their contributions are a lot lower for families. LA picks up a big portion of the contributions for dependents too, which is, you know, those feels like those are markets that we come from. But on the individual basis, we're super strong. We're very competitive. And then the $500 deductible is very.
I think one question that I have, and you may not be prepared for this necessarily, but I'm curious how much of our workforce is individuals who benefit from that particular plan who are individual or 1+, right? We have a diverse workforce, and not everyone who works for CCSD or is a licensed professional is an individual who is, you know, benefit the individual insured or individual +1. So
right, so it's almost 25% of ours are the others than that, right? So we're 50-60% of the individual +1 and the individual the individual or individual +1 is about 60%, and then we have a family plus 2, that's 10 or 15%, and then we have the rest of our families plus 4.
Is that, the comparison, is that something that, that we've requested of you?
Requested me to do it, not to provide it. I'm happy to provide it. Yeah, yes,
Thank you. And you said that that's complete.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Another question that I have that came from a recent public comment, couple meetings ago, was with respect to the dental insurance. There are concerns that members had, some individuals who came to public comment and shared concerns about dental insurance. Can you share a little bit? Have you unraveled that? What, again, on the note of like benefits, there continues to be concerns from some members of the public regarding the way that some benefits are offered.
Yeah, thank you. So the last year before our most recent open enrollment in October, where this circumstance is resulting from that open enrollment, we offered the HMO and the PPO dental to any educator, and they could pick whichever one they want. And there was no price differential. The PPO cost us $9 more for an individual, cost us $18 more for 2, and it cost us $30 or $27 more for a family. So what we did is we said, if somebody wants to take the PPO, they're gonna, if you're an individual, you can pay $9, or you can take the HMO by, down the road. So we just told them this is the exact cost differential, because we didn't think it was fair that we thought that was a fair way to say it. Here's how much it costs. You could take, and the HMO is a very favorable plan too, and we're trying to push people to the HMO because it has unlimited benefits, and it has 50% of the doctors and the dentists that are in the PPO. So there was a lot of positive reasons. So we communicated at the time of open enrollment that if you don't make a selection, you're going to be put into the HMO because it doesn't cost you anything. We couldn't force them into the PPO because it would have cost them money. So we communicated every channel. We do the email, we do social media, we do posting on our website. Plus, everybody knows it's open enrollment, and in open enrollment, you should look at your benefits. I mean, that's kind of expected. We also knew that we had problem with dental the previous year, so we worked with Jason Gowdy, and he connected me with Todd Story, and Todd sent communication to every teacher through the CCSD communication, because what we have is some of the educators unsubscribe to the THT email, so they don't get the communication. They have to count on themselves to go to the website, or they have to do it in another forum. So, so we communicated it 4 or 5 times, and then plus we actually did it through the school district directly. So we think there's some form of accountability for people if they have every opportunity to know that they have to make a choice and they don't make a choice. I don't know how much else I could do, frankly. What we are going to do next year, we're also going to mail regular letters, but who knows if anybody opens their mail anyhow. But we hit every single angle that we possibly can. But I really feel like we were fair in that regard. We had some appeals that came through, and people were under treatment with their dental, and we honored that appeal, and we kept them in the dental plan. But if the appeal was I just didn't enroll, we kept them in the HMO.
I recognize, thank you for that insight, and just recognize that, earlier you talked about the percentages of individuals versus families, for example, and that's reflective of the individuals who are currently enrolled versus our workforce numbers.
That was enrollment, absolutely. The numbers I was referencing are people in the plan.
Enrollment.
That's
And
correct.
I think our board, our colleagues, we have a responsibility to analyze and assess whether actually, even if it's majority of individuals who we just have, it's important for us to have these discussions in terms of are these insurance meeting the needs of our workforce, because we hear it. That's not to say that there needs to be a decision plan, but it's important how these individuals are signed up. Here we are talking about enrollment. I'm talking about the workforce, right, and our employees. So my last question is with respect to can you confirm that all senior staff at THT and CCEA are insured by THT as well?
Confirm that they are, yes. Everybody that's eligible is everybody has a choice to take coverage or not, but yeah.
That's, just simply because we are offering a quality product from what I hear you saying. Want to make sure that the individuals at the top level in leadership are also taking advantage of that and not maybe another benefit that's.
Absolutely. It's a good plan. It truly is a good health plan in this community. If you compare it to others, it's a good.
Oh, thank you. Colleagues, are there any other questions at this time? Thank you, Tony.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that.
For your time. Right, colleagues. We're gonna move on to item 3.04, notice of intent. Our County School District Regulation 4291. Before I continue on this item, I'd like to note, please, if anyone has not had a chance to complete their yellow card for public comment, this is the time to do so. Yellow card is here. And then up front to. You can bring it up front if you'd like to consider have enough for you to speak during public comment on this item. All right, ready to, I don't see any cards. We're gonna move forward with. Move forward with this. With Dr. Toltz, please take it away.
Yes. Good evening and thank you, President Garcia Morales. Thank you, Dr. Zara, Superintendent. And thank you, Board of Trustees. Yes, I'm here this evening to talk about notice of intents for some regulations. I'm going to start with 4291. This notice of intent is dealing with at-will employees. As many of you know, since I've been here in June, I've looked at compensation in multiple ways, especially with regard to our licensed employees. That's where I started looking at employees based on their years of experience, based on their levels of education, in order to bring proper data forward to a multitude of audiences. I'm in the works of speaking with a third party so that we are looking at the compensation of our administrators and also our support staff, so that we are looking to see if we can do a study on our job descriptions and get them in line with the work that they do. And this piece is just another component on a 360 view of how CCSD compensates our employees overall. So this is looking at will employees, those that are new to the district, those that are promoted within the district to an at-will, and those that are currently at an at-will position. One of the most important things to consider is that we are the fifth largest district in the nation. We have to make sure that we are competitive locally, regionally, nationally. With our at-will employees, we are currently tied to a salary schedule that is not reflective, or it doesn't give us as a district the fluidity that we need to ensure that we are competitive in order to draw the highest talent. Because we're not just looking out our windows to find talent, we're looking across the nation to find all of our talent. And that's why I've been committed as your CHRO to look at compensation, fair compensation for all of our employees to feel like they are being paid a living wage and that they are highly valued for the experience that they have. As you will notice in this intent, it still looks at employees' longevity, their job requirements of the position, and it's reflective of their experience that they bring to the job.
Thank you, Dr. Cole. Colleagues, I don't have any public comments for this particular item. Is there any questions? If so, this is the time. Otherwise, I make the motion. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Dr. Toltz. When we did do our briefing, I think I know what I'm going to ask. When we are doing this comparative analysis and looking at, trying to recruit and also retain best of best in comparable entities, can you give some examples besides other urban school districts and the types of entities where we'd be looking at the salaries?
Give me one moment, I see.
President, Garcia.
Forgive me, Dr. Toltz. I see Dr. Jara who's jumped in.
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't give you a chance to.
Madam President, members of the board, trustee Cavasso, great question. One of the things that we look at as Dr. Folks mentioned, not only nationally, but also locally, are municipalities. We're not just competing, especially, and I'll say this, when we look at national data for teaching and learning, it's a lot easier with school districts. A little bit of a challenge when you look at the operations and locally here in our county, we're competing with government, municipalities, the strip business, especially for our size. So, for example, CIO, it took us, and you all know this, because it took us 9 months to find a CIO. And that is the comparison. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Hodden. And also Dr. Schultz, Superintendent wants to jump in on this one too. And again, this is a public constituent question. Can you give just some examples? I know that we are very familiar with what at-will employees are, but can you give some examples of the types of positions that are at-will?
One moment, Dr. Dar.
Madam President, members of the board, the at-will positions are I would say my executive cabinet. For this one, to be very specific, you got assistant superintendents, I know that are in our general counsel office. They're also at-will within the division.
Thank you so much. And again, that was a constituent question, as we're all here aware of what at-will employees are, but I thank you for that collaboration. Madam President, that's the one questions I have.
Thank you, trustee Cavazos. I don't see any other questions. I want to make sure I check into trustee Williams. Have any questions?
No, I'm okay. I don't have any questions. Thank you, though.
I would like to request a motion. Trustee Brooks,
Thank you, Madam President. I'll move to approve agenda item 3.04.
thank you, trustee Brooks, trustee Guzman.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Guzman. Colleagues, we have a motion by trustee Brooks and a second by trustee Guzman. At this time, please cast your vote. Trustee Williams,
Aye.
that motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to item 3.05. This is notice of intent for the Clark County School District Regulation 4325. Before we continue on to item 3.05, is there anyone who has not had a chance to see the yellow card? This is your chance. Do so now, otherwise we no longer will pick cards. For item 3.05. Item 3.05, let's take it away. Dr. Holmes.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, Dr. Dar, Superintendent, and the Board of Trustees. This regulation is just about cleaning up the language, making it more grammatically correct, but also in our efforts in the Human Resources Department become more efficient. We have turned a paper process into an automated process through our human capital management system. And when you are now going on a military leave, you will fill that out through our automation and not.
Thank you, Dr. Holtz. Colleagues, at this time, we don't have any public comment on this item. So this is the time to ask questions or prepare a motion. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I would like to make a motion to approve 3.05 notice of intent, Clark County School District Regulation 4352. And thank you, Dr. Schultz, for making a motion. I'm making mention of cleaning up the grammatics. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Cavazos. Trustee Brooks.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Brooks. Colleagues, we have a motion by trustee Cavazos, second by trustee Brooks. Please cast your vote. Trustee Williams.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 3.06, notice of intent, the Clark County School District Regulation 4357. Before I continue on this item, anyone has not had a chance to complete a yellow card, a public speaker card for item 3.06, now is the time to do so. Dr. Foltz?
Yes, Madam President, Superintendent Dr. Dora, and Board of Trustees. Again, this is another attempt at creating more effective processes through human resources and taking another paper process for any type of political leave. It was now being automated through our human capital management system.
Thank you, Dr. Foltz. I don't see any yellow cards or individuals who signed up in advance for this item. Trustees, this is the time to ask questions or make a motion. Trustee Brooks?
Thank you, Madam President. I move to approve agenda item 3.06.
Thank you, Trustee Brooks. Trustee Cavazos?
Thank you, Madam President. I will second trustee Brooks's motion.
Thank you, colleagues. Trustees, we have a motion by trustee Brooks, a second by trustee Cavazos. Please cast your vote. Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Colleagues, that motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Foltz.
Thank you.
All right, colleagues, at this time, we're moving on to item 4.01. This is the public comment on items not listed on our agenda. I will have another reminder about our yellow cards. If you have not had a chance to complete this, this is the time to complete it before we open it and continue. If you have yellow card at this time, please bring them up to Lisa. Wonderful. We'll begin with the individuals who called in advance. Mr. Bayless.
Hello, James Bayless for the record. With the package you guys are about to receive, kind of explains a lot of what we've been going round and round about, and a few of myths that we can clear up quite quickly. So within that file, you will find all the legislature about the dark brown kids, the disabled kids, all the kids you guys have been putting in our system between child services, jail, everywhere else. Man, 82% child services rate. That's the rate of abductions that we've had in Las Vegas. That's crazy. Considering you guys have sent them at me 9 times and tried, but you guys suck at it. So the situation is, with that going on, and my kids rolling, the only reason why I know about this is because of my son. You guys tried to put him in jail twice and sucked at that too. I don't understand how you guys are sitting up here talking about you care for children when you're trying to incarcerate them. Right up there is the grants coming from the DOJ coming to this place. And just so you, Ms. Guzman, so you know, Child Services actually going to give you that file. That's all their files. It comes from this building.
Mr. Bayless, please a gentle reminder to not address.
I apologize, but it's prevented some mean verbiage. Okay, I understand. But that's the, the grants that everybody was in the outreach for child services. Those ramming gate vehicles that you guys got for truancy officers. Yeah, it seems there's a lot more going on than just truancy. So here's your situation, and that's weaponized against every parent in Las Vegas. Then you have Daniel Ibarra pretty much making sure if you're a low income family or in a housing system, you are a target. And you can't get help if you ain't got 10 racks to give a lawyer because he controls the pro bono system. Sucks when you got the man in your pocket, huh? So with the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, they cover 50 states. All 50 board members, each one covers a state. They all have that truancy program. I have Florida, I have Wisconsin, I have a bunch of others. I'm still snooping. So you guys might want to address this because pretty soon it's gonna bite you in the butt and nobody's gonna like it. it kind of goes to my topic there, because again, this is pertinent to my kid. You guys tried to put my kid in this. That was a stupid mistake. September 9th, September 29th, when Daniel Harvard tried to extort me, that's what pissed this off. This is what started our war. Your man wanted to extort me. Bad decision. I don't take kindly to threats. Like you guys don't. You guys send the cops. Unfortunately, I don't have that power. I don't have the money. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Bayless. I'm gonna call up a couple of members who have signed up in advance for item 4.01. We'll start with Delray Rhodes, Quentin Samuel, Walter Jones III. Individuals here.
Does it just be in that order?
And if no one is, the person before you was not present. What's your name?
Well, thank you. For the record, my name is Quentin Savoie, that's SAVWO. And I'm here today speaking out on behalf of the incident that happened at Durango High School. Not to berate anyone, but I think that it's pretty clear cut what happened in that video. And the fact that the parents nor the community has been made aware of why this happened, why those young men, is truly a travesty. Quick sidebar, I just want to note, not a lawyer, but it would seem as though this building, the administrative building, and any other Clark County publicly funded buildings are public spaces. So when we need to hold our elected officials accountable in those spaces, we should be permitted to be on the grounds that the public paid for. We have a risk to lives of 150 people being next to a bus lane in order to demand some accountability about what happened to three young Black students at Durango High School. And I don't know what your political affiliations are, but they don't need to be any one way to know that if you want to raise the next generation of leaders in Nevada, you can start by not throwing them around like ragamuffins. That was disgusting to watch. We need full stop reform within CCSD PD. And it's very concerning that everyone's treating this extremely lackadaisical. I'm not a parent, I don't have kids in the district. My interest in this district is that I'm a community member here. And if you are a community member here, you should have some skin in the game. And you should want our young people to be treated better. We deserve better and our community will have better. So, in conclusion, I fully support coming to the table to discuss what reform looks like as a police department. Because in this climate where Black and brown men in particular are being killed and murdered unarmed, you would think that the CCSD police would have a little bit more emotional awareness to not do the things that we've seen transpire all across the country, most recently in Memphis. So if that's not training that currently exists, it needs to. And I would implore you all to demand more of the department that you all are responsible for managing. Thank you for your time.
The support, please hold your applause. Walter Jones, third. Welcome.
Definitely, I'm Walter Jones, the third vice president of National Action Network. One of the topics I wanted to talk on, it doesn't do any good to talk on it yet until we get the report. But one of my things I've always said to you guys you do not cheer. You show no compassion to when it comes to our kids. Just like now, we wasted 40 minutes. Nobody here wants to listen to numbers. They want to talk about what's going on with the school system, with the kids. Everybody's just sitting here, play with their fingers because you guys need to put that on another agenda. Do that on your guys' time. We're here to talk about the kids, what's going on with the district, what's going on with payment, what's going on with the students. And we sit up here and talk about numbers that nobody can even see and even know what's going on. What was the purpose of running if you're not protecting the kids? You got teachers that's being threatened by students. You got kids that's being thrown around by the police that you guys called should have been security guards, but you turned around and went to the legislature to have them put in as police officers. When you guys need to be concentrating on education, it starts at home starts with kids in early age, goes to junior high, goes to high school, not jail. So we need to come up with a solution to help these kids. We sit up here and talk about we're the 5th largest district, but we rank 49th. If this was a corporation, it'd be shut down. And you guys still don't care. I sit up here and watch teachers talk about they didn't get paid. I sit up here and watch one teacher talk about a student threatening her at school. And you guys just sat there like you didn't care. You didn't even go visit your schools? Do you even know what's going on with your schools? Do you support your staff? If this stuff was real, then you guys will know. You guys are spending more time opening up charter schools when you should be worrying about the public schools. Everybody doesn't have money to go to private schools. I went to school here, I was born and raised. We had 12 high schools. We only had one private school that was gourmet. Now we got all these other schools, you're taking away money from the public schools and giving them to the charter schools. Now what does that leave the public schools? Think about it. A superintendent can get a job anywhere else. You guys got to think about getting reelected. Thank you.
Please hold your applause. Thank you. Other questions? Anna Perry. Diana Perry is Al Navarro. In that order, please.
Good evening. My name is Robert Bush, BUSH, with the National Action Network. And today I want to talk about the safety of our kids. And today on my birthday, I reflected on some things. And I reflected on the time where Las Vegas was known as Mississippi of the West. And it still is. And I thought as much as things have changed, they've stayed the same. And I thought that Black people in this school district, Black and brown children in this school district, still have a completely different life experience than white people. And today I'm here on behalf of all kids who don't feel safe from those who took an oath to protect and serve. Listen, police brutality refers to force used by law enforcement officers that is excessive and are necessary in dealing with civilians. Excessive use of force means more than is needed in a given situation. Well, it doesn't take much to figure out that the video that we saw of Officer Jason tackling a student because he was videotaping him, which is his right, by the way, the force was excessive and it fits the definition of police brutality. And we are still demanding a swift investigation and termination. And we are demanding reform by this police department. It seems the officers are only there to serve as a control mechanism. Listen, I don't know if I want police officers removed from schools, even though there isn't much evidence indicating that police officers in schools don't make this any safer. However, if it comes down to brutalizing our kids, or if it comes down to increasing the school to prison pipeline, get rid of the police. After all, 99% of the time, police cannot prevent violence, they can only respond to it. What they will do is increase the likelihood that Black and brown children are going to be moved into the legal system early and often. Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King said, we can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. So let me speak to our allies also. You are our allies, and some of you are in this room. You are our allies only if you're here not to just order, but to help us get justice. So with that, we say no justice,
No peace.
no peace.
Mr. Bush. Come on. Come on, please. After Sean. Chris G. Nick DeCiro and Jenny Moss.
Hi, hello, good evening. For the record, my name is Sean Navarro. I really want to thank the trustees for here in person here, their time and everybody in person. Thank you all so much. There's a lot of talk about accountability for our students' performance, accountability for teachers, accountability for health trust. But something I know is we never really talk about accountability for the police and schools. We never kind of step back and ask ourselves, are these cops in schools making kids feel safer? Do parents feel safer? And I think it's an overwhelming no. We spend more and more of our public budgets while our infrastructure crumbles, while we don't have enough money for healthcare, and people don't feel safer. There seems to be an atmosphere where things seem to be getting worse, people feel less safe, and we spend more and more money on police on schools. I think I speak for a lot of people where I'm kind of tired of the situation happening. It's kind of something that happens over and over and over again, and we kind of set up the same discussions and nothing changes. I think it kind of goes without saying that I think it's really surprising that it has to be said, but no child deserves to feel unsafe in school. And as the system currently stands, Black and brown children, poor children, they're currently criminalized. They're made to feel as criminals just for existing and just for trying to get education. I'd ask the trustee members to think if their child's in a situation, how would you want that police officer to act? When these things happen, a lot of folks say, well, we got to get the whole information, we got to see the video. I don't know what information can be revealed to kind of explain the situation where you see children being thrown to the ground, when you see police officers who are very high paid, well-trained individuals act in this manner. I think it's inexcusable. Again, I think this situation needs to change. These police have to be held accountable. I think we have the evidence there that cops in our school are not making kids feel safer. They're criminalizing students, and I think that needs to change. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you, Sean. Christine. Chris, we've got Nick with Rico and Jenny Moss, then Joelle Wren.
Good evening, Christine Tiliani. Do I need to spell it? No, okay. Retired 30-year special ed teacher. And I wanted to comment tonight, the school police issues that are so serious, and they deserve to have a future agenda set up for us and you to have some conversations that we can actually comment on. So I think on behalf of the individuals that are here tonight, we would like you, when the report comes out, to have an actual agendized item so we can actually speak to it and have conversations with regard to it. The community was shocked and stunned by the violent actions inflicted on a young student. The officer's behavior on video certainly escalated the situation, and regardless of whatever reason he and others had for getting into an altercation, none of it warranted him throwing the student to the ground or putting his knee on the student's back. Sadly, the superintendent did not suspend him without pay while the situation was being investigated. And Dr. Hara didn't ask for an outside police organization to conduct the investigation. While the sheriff may have offered to assist, only one Metro officer was sent to CCSD to actually assist with the investigation. And I'm appreciative of the sheriff's offer, but it's still an internal investigation and not an independent one. Why would the community question this lack of independence? An example could be when the superintendent was in a car accident last month. There are at least 5 school officers that showed up, but they let the superintendent leave the scene of crime of a 3-car accident in which the vehicle was totaled. I think they would not be very independent. So we need to know where the video cameras are for the police officers. Are you going to report those? Are we going to have at some point an independent review? This is not just a training issue. If the police heard a rumor about a gun in the neighborhood area, then why were these particular youth being followed? I hope it was not racial profiling. That said, I know there's always one more to the story, and regardless of the situation, kids can be bad, believe me. No student should be thrown to the ground and kneeled on. We should have learned something from what happened to George Floyd. Let's do better than that. I wrote the original habitual discipline law in the 90s. It's time to review that. I was working with Tyrone Thompson before he passed on how to really take a look at our mental health within our schools. I think this is a perfect opportunity to work with Dr. Hara and the rest of the board to put together a community working group. I would like to volunteer for that. I can be critical, but I can also be very positive when good things come out of it. But this community deserves, not just demands, but deserves to have a voice at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick? Nick, it's not present. Amy Moss, go around, Rand after Jeannie.
Good evening, Jenny Moss. I'm glad to be here. I'm here this evening in regards to the firing of the Shadow Ridge baseball coach recently. For the past 6 years, Coach Dan Thomas has coached my boys at Shadow Ridge High School. We're a military family, and during my oldest son's freshman year, his dad was deployed. Coach Thomas and many of his coaches provided that needed mentoring and example when his dad was away. When my husband returned, Coach Thomas helped us surprise my son on the baseball field with his return. It was a memorable experience for us and one that the coach helped us to create. He has helped these kids grow into wonderful men. He's coached them, but more than coached, he's been an amazing mentor as well, which we've heard we need a lot of in this world. He's an incredibly smart baseball coach. He knows the game, he teaches the game. He teaches strategy and skills. He teaches life skills. He teaches respect, compassion, work ethic, and he models all of those behaviors for the boys. He gives every boy a chance. When the school didn't have a freshman team, he saw the potential in many boys who hit late growth spurts and maybe didn't have the size to make the JV team. So he created a freshman team so they'd have opportunities. He has spent countless hours volunteering to take care of the fields, buy the necessary equipment that the school doesn't have the funds to provide, and having the boys to help to create a Nevada State Baseball Championship team last year. My son is currently a junior. For the past 3 years, he's talked about this team that Coach Thomas worked with and saw potential in and worked alongside to help them achieve their goal of winning states. Last year, my son was pulled up at the end of the season to play on the winning state team as a sophomore, but he looked forward to this year. This is his team. These boys have worked so hard for this team and this year and this coach. Imagine our shock when we heard that Coach Thomas was fired. I had more faith in the school that both my boys have attended. I never thought that one boy and his parents would be allowed to retaliate against Coach Thomas and use their personal relationship with the principal of Shadow Ridge High School to get a coach fired. Ultimately, they did not like their son being held to the same high standards that all the other kids are held to. Their kid was already expelled from a different Valley high school. Since then, he's used drugs around my kid during multiple bulk baseball games. The parents did not want their child to be held accountable for his actions. Since the parents are employees of the school, as a teacher at Shadow Ridge High School and also as a principal of another school in the district, they use their knowledge of rules and regulations to invent a way to get the coach fired before baseball tryouts. The parents are also friends with the principal of Shadow Ridge High School and they vacation together. This friendship led to the firing of Coach Thomas. This has caused an entire baseball program of kids to lose faith in their school and their teachers and the leaders. What kind of message does the Shadow Ridge principal set by not recusing herself from decisions that involve her best friend's son? Please set a good example for these kids and further investigate the situation, taking into account the biased relationship of the principal who affected over 50 kids this year and many more in the future years. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Joel? Joel Rand, then Dan Thomas, and Michelle Rock.
Hi, my name is Joel Rand. I'm also here on behalf of Coach Dan Thomas from Shadow Ridge Baseball. Unlike the previous speaker, my son is just a freshman at Shadow Ridge High School. He's only been a part of the baseball program for the past 6 or 7 months. During the past summer, he played for their club ball affiliated team, the Las Vegas Stallions. At practices and games, I've heard many stories pertaining to the coaches of Shadow Ridge. They were all thought of in high regard, and even more specifically, Coach Thomas. He had shown a high baseball IQ, kindness, tough love, generosity, patience, commitment, and most importantly, leadership. All of these great qualities in a coach. Over the summer, I was able to witness a lot of these qualities, as well as my son relaying to me his interactions with the coaches. My wife and I were happy that our son had a coach who desired to not just make him a better ball player, but also a better man. Coach Thomas has donated not just his personal time, but thousands of dollars yearly out of his own pocket for the necessary equipment. That being said, my son and I both felt compelled to come here this evening to share our story. My son did not make JV this year, but yet we're still here. The next day after he found out he didn't make it, he got a text from Coach Thomas. said to keep his head up and not quit playing baseball. Keep working hard and his day will come. I truly appreciated him taking out time of his day to build up my child. There are many, many stories to back up the character of Coach Thomas, but at the end of the day, all he wants is what's best for the kids. So please allow Coach Thomas the opportunity to share his side of the story. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joel. Dan Thomas, Michelle Graff.
Hello, everyone. I, first of all, didn't plan on being here because I tried to have just a meeting with the principal, but was never available to do it. I wrote about a 19-page letter to him. It took me over 11 hours, but I wrote this for 3 minutes. So I guess I'm not used to reading things. I'm used to talking from my heart. I've never been in this position in my life. I always put myself in another person's shoes that I am dealing with. So I'm asking you to do that for me. I'm 65 years old. I've been working since I was 13 years old. I've owned 5 companies of my own and worked for a Commerce Enterprise for 20 years. I've never been verbally warned, written up, or fired in my life. I retired at 55 years old to start coaching again full time. I have coached high school baseball for 20 years, 10 years in Oregon, 10 years in Las Vegas. I received a Platinum Sun Devil Award from the El Dorado High School principal in 2013. He told me it had not been given out for 11 years prior to that. The past 7 years, I've been coach at Shadow Ridge High School. In the last 4 years, I've been the varsity coach. 2 prior principals made that choice. During that time, I had a 10-foot screen fall and break my neck in 2018. CCSD called me a few days later and asked me if I was going to sue them for the injury and for medical expenses. The answer was no, I paid for things myself. Now, here's where things happened. 3 weeks ago is when the word video got me fired. I heard the word video a whole bunch of times in this, since I've been here. No one's ever seen it except my wife and I. It was about a player that had gotten hurt and was out for the season, and his parents made me aware of it and that he was down in the dumps. He showed up for the first time in months that day. I was going to send the picture to his, because he was smiling for the first time in months. There was a second player in the video that was not part of my plan. This is like kind of a movie going backwards. So here are the actors, and actually someone just talked about. The principal of Shadow Ridge, another middle school principal, the mother of the player, and a teacher at Shadow Ridge, the dad of the player. The mom is best friends with the Shadow Ridge principal. I met with them at a baseball game, and she introduced her as her best friend. First day I met both of them was the day before the principal even started Shadow Ridge. So this is all about one family and the principal. In the 2 prior weekends, we played club ball, which has nothing to do with high school baseball. The first weekend, their son was vaping in the dugout. He had the same thing happen a month earlier in school and was suspended for 2 weeks. I was told that, and I had to be involved with the vice principal. The following weekend after our games, an anonymous email was sent to the school vice principal and the word bullying was brought up. The following day, I was asked to come to the school and was told they were going to investigate it. They brought in numerous players and they tried to get them to acknowledge that I was the bully. During the 3 days of research, a teacher, the husband and of the wife that sent the bullying email to the school, was bringing students into his class and trying to get them to turn against me. He even did it with a fellow teacher who was a baseball coach at Shadow Ridge. The final event was that their son showed up at the game when the video was taken. I did not know this, but the school district had told the player and the parents he was not to attend any baseball event until the bullying research was finalized, and we had a meeting the following Tuesday at the school. So how can I get fired for taking a video with no one that no one has seen, and one player got me fired, was not supposed to be there, according to Shadow Ridge principals. I was cleared 100%. I was cleared 100% by the vice principal.
Thank you. Michelle Graff.
My name is Michelle Graff, and I'm just gonna read a letter that was, and that represents my son, who is a junior at Shadow Ridge High School, and freshman year, he made the varsity baseball. So it was a letter that was sent to Dr. Dara, Deputy Superintendent, Regional 1 Superintendent, Assistant Superintendents, which there are 4 of them, and the Shadow Ridge High School principal. No one has responded to not one of the baseball players and not any of the parents. The Shadow Ridge High School principal, even my husband tried to send her something, and she had her CCSD emails blocked. It was impossible to even respond to her. So anyways, dear Clark County
School District Administration. On February 6th, 2023, the Shadow Ridge baseball team was notified of the firing of varsity head coach Mr. Daniel Thomas. This came as a shock to us as Coach Thomas has left a lasting positive impact on the team and the Shadow Ridge Athletics Department overall. Coach Thomas has become a mentor and a teacher for each player while also voluntarily funding this program and other athletic programs at Shadow Ridge. His unjust firing came abruptly and left us with no chance to tell our stories about Coach Thomas and the positive winning mentality he has brought to the Shadow Ridge baseball team, including the 2022 state class 4A championship. He has taught his players to give all to their sport, and his firing has left the players and family members angry and upset over the loss of Coach Thomas right before the start of the 2023 spring season. The manner that Shadow Ridge, I'm not going to get through this whole letter, but I'm just going to tell you, Shadow Ridge assistant vice principal, probably at the direction of the principal, pulled in about 12 of the Shadow Ridge baseball players, my son included, and tried to coerce them into saying that Coach Thomas was a bully, because that was what the charge this said player was trying to bring against Coach Thomas. Not one of those boys that was brought in said he was a bully. But they were all told at the end of that, keep this between us. My son felt like when he told me and my husband, I felt like they didn't want us to say anything to you as parents. We weren't even notified that our kids were pulled in and questioned like they were criminals. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. We're now going to move on to the yellow public cards that were submitted for this item was open. Mr. Hannon? Hannon.
Thank you. My name is Bill Hamlin. I'm here because I really do believe that we should set kids up for success. I talked with this board previously about our programs. I set our kids up for failure in math. Math is unlike other subjects, as I mentioned before. In things like social studies, you can teach World War II or World War I or Vietnam. In science, you can teach biology or chemistry or physics or any order that you want to. In math, the order in which you teach, mastery and automaticity are important. When we are allowing our students to maintain a certain level of consistency in terms of the math, when they're not covering material, we are setting kids up for success. Kids cannot do science, engineering, and technology if they can't do math. When we look at math, you can't teach division if kids can't add or subtract. You can't do logarithms if the kids don't know exponentials. You can't solve quadratic equations if the kids haven't learned polynomial factoring. In order to cover those materials, it has to be in order in a time frame to cover that. Our system, particularly in mathematics, because it is unlike the subject, where the order matters, where mastery matters, and where automaticity matters. When we're allowing kids to just not take tests, not study in a timely manner, and we wonder why kids are failing. That's not the fault of the kids. It's not the fault of the teachers. It's the fault of what we set up for them, that they can take tests when they want to. They can retake tests over and over again. I'm sorry, in math, that doesn't work. If it doesn't work in math, it's not going to do good if the kids aren't going to do good in other areas. So I'm asking you, as I've asked before, to look at what you're doing for our kids and knowing how important math is, not just to our students, but to our nation in terms of having people go into the science areas. We cannot have math be treated like other subjects when it is clearly not. That's what we're currently doing. So I'm asking you again to please listen to that and look at what we're doing, and then not wonder why when kids go grade level to grade level that they're not prepared. You can't have kids taking algebra 2 that can't add 5 and 3 on the best day. It's not fair to the kids. We've set them up. I will say that I spoke to you last time, it didn't seem to have any reception. I will say to you, I've talked to legislators recently about this, some of the policies that are occurring that cause our kids to do poorly in math. They seem to be more receptive to these, some of these ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Jessica Orta, Diana Bernardi, Arlena Colson.
I'd like to thank you to the board for hearing me. Hold on, because we're gonna go pretty quickly.
Can you please state your name for the record?
My name is Jessica Orta, and I'm a Black woman with 2 school-age sons who fear for them daily. We all want our children to be safe and educated. I think it's safe to start saying that about all parents, but I'm here to address the assault on the young men walking from Durango High. And I find it deplorable that it's not an item on the agenda after a student in your district was violently and publicly assaulted by the very police you claim are there to keep schools safe. I saw a news article that say that you are all concerned with the lack of its presence on the agenda, despite the request of many parents at home and in the audience, doesn't reflect that sentiment. What I saw was completely unacceptable and illegal for anyone else, including parents to their own children. While I realize that this world has become desensitized to the brutalization of Black bodies, these are children. They are one of the most vulnerable demographics of our population. And instead of investing in extra teachers, smaller classes, updated books, access to quality curriculums and technology, or even a Mental Health in Schools Act to mirror successful programs by Grace Napolitano in Southern California, we have a budget for school police so that our children are learning that they're perceived as a threat and not the future of our society before they even graduate. We are investing in treating these children like criminals when they show up to learn. Anytime you overcrowd an environment and don't provide enough resources for all people in that environment, there will be upheaval. Teachers are overworked and underpaid in classrooms that are ill-equipped for class size. It's up to you to do better for these children because as parents in your districts, we're forced to trust you to prioritize providing safe environments that encourage learning, development, and growth while we go to work to keep a roof over our heads. There must be action taken unless the point is to teach our children that this is how they should expect to be treated. The officers need to be held accountable, and the way that we approach keeping our children and their teachers safe in these learning institutions needs to be reconsidered. Nevada is currently ranked as one of the least educated states in this country. And if our children aren't learning at the schools and they're being monitored by police, these aren't schools. They're mini jails that strengthen the school to prison pipeline. And I'm gonna make a note on the record that only one of you can really understand what it is to walk through this world as a Black person with Black children in this world, in little Mississippi of the West. So you need to really hear us when we come here, desperately pleading to you when we're not out in the street making a spectacle, because it's your job. We didn't call the police, but we're forced to pay them. We pay that with our tax dollars. So we paid for those men to brutalize those children, and we're not being heard and no action is being taken. I'm in your district, by the way, so we'll be talking more frequently about these things because I do have children. And if it's my kids, we won't be talking.
Thank you for holding your applause, Diana. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Diana, for the record. I'm a high school student here in the Clark County School District. I am a youth fellow from the Youth Power Project with Make the Road Nevada. And I'm also here representing hundreds of student members. I'm here today to ask Superintendent Jara and school board trustees to remove CCSD police from our schools. Many of us have watched the video of the incident of police brutality that occurred in Durango High School. This is not the first incident of this type, and it won't likely be the last. It is clear that CCSD police are a harm to our students. With police trainings at our schools, students feel like we're being prepared for prison, not for our future. As school board trustees, you have the power to prevent these incidents from happening. Restorative justice calls to remove police from schools in order to end the school to prison pipeline that we currently have in place. I urge you to implement more mental health resources in schools, which is what our students want and need. Instead of police, our students need more mental health professionals like psychologists, social workers, and counselors to help meet the need of the students. Providing more mental health resources will help students thrive. Lastly, and again, I would like to remind you, counseling, not criminalization. Thank you.
Carlana, VHL, and Deshaunty Marshall.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Jara, Board of Trustees. For the record, my name is Carlana Colseth. I'm speaking as an individual. I come before you today after coming numerous times in front of this board since June 2021, asking for resources for us educators in the classroom to help our students with their social emotional learning needs, as well as their mental health. As of today, I'm here to report to you that a recent survey taken at my school told us that 23% of our students feel as if they have a connection with at least one adult on their campus. Let that sink in for a second. 23% of the students that go through my hallways every single day feel comfortable with at least one adult they can go to if they have issues. One adult that they can go to and unleash if it's not their counselor. That is a very small number for 2,450 students. I am here as one of your teachers begging you to give us stuff in our classrooms to help our students. In the last 2 weeks, I have seen an increase of behaviors in my classroom alone, in the hallway that I monitor every passing period, as well as fights are increasing on my campus again, because students are not getting what they need. We all know that Maslow's needs to come before Bloom's. If our students are not getting their survival needs met, they're not thinking about learning. If they do not feel safe in their classrooms, they're not thinking about learning. If they do not feel accepted by their peers and their teacher in each classroom that they go to in and out every single day, they are not thinking about learning. My students are not showing up to learn. They're showing up because I'm the only adult that is there to listen, to show interest, to show care. That is not what school is for, and yet that is what I'm resulted in as an educator in your district. I am tired. I'm exhausted. I have nothing else to expend to my students, and I feel like a failure because I can't give them what they need. Listen to me. I'm not the only educator thinking about walking away from my career, a career that I spent 3 degrees on. That's a hell of a lot of money to spend on education. I feel like I'm not using it correctly because I can't get my kids to learn. And it's because they can't get their needs met. If we are CCSD, just like we previously were #1 for students, we need to start giving the employees something to do with these students for conflict resolution, coping strategies, learning how to communicate and not just communicate through lashing out, bad behaviors, bathroom watering for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and they're all trying to avoid learning. We can't get to the root of getting the data that Dr. Jara wants from our students through SLGs and math scores and ACT scores. We can't get them where they need to be if we're not meeting those needs. Thank you.
Michelle. Present. Hope I'm saying that right.
It's Michelle.
Michelle. Thank you.
Yeah, I just have a short statement. My name is Michelle Burton. And I have kids in the district as well as grandkids in the district. And I just had a concern today. I was just feeling, this my comment is brief. The school police may need additional training in regards to their own implicit biases when it comes to students who don't look like them. So more force or excessive force isn't used. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Appreciate it. Deshaunty Marshall and Dr. Deshaunty, we've got Jolene Fletcher.
Superintendent Jara, members of the board, it is good to see you again. As you know, I sent an email with demands, and I am here to state them publicly. We demand a swift investigation, we demand termination, and we demand reform. Our pipeline to prison is full. And as trustees, you are responsible for its overflow. There's no more room. This is not a training issue. This is the issue of people who are responsible for connecting with their community, not being present to listen. There is no reason why we should have had to galvanize a protest so that you will listen to us. You taper our statements and our words, the way that we send in our letters, the way we correspond with you. You make yourselves unavailable for the statements of the people. How many of you reached out to the parents of those children to see if they got mental health support? How many of you reached out to the parents of those children to ensure that they knew how to file a proper complaint? See, I'm not here to complain about Dr. Jara. I'm here to complain about the people who hold him responsible. You were voted into your seats. And even after March 19, 2019, when I stood here before, you're still failing. You are failing your families. You failed to create a safe space for them to come and express what they feel, what they encountered, and what they go through. Make the Roll Nevada has been here for years telling you all. They are tired of being maced, and they are tired of being slammed to the ground. They are tired of 5 and 6 officers. It's on public record. So for you to avoid it is unacceptable. I say again, our pipeline to prison is full. It is no longer accepting new inmates. And we will stand in solidarity. 4 years later, we are wiser, we are more organized, and we are larger. Today is just a snippet of the thorn that I will be in your side if you still refuse to agendize and take action. I'm not coming to yell, I'm coming with solutions, and I'm coming to talk. And either you're gonna listen or you will be forced to. It's not an option. Our children will not be the casualty anymore. And this time, you can't blame the superintendent. See, I read those bargaining agreements of those police unions. I know exactly what they say. And I ain't excusing him, but his message of intolerance was swift. I've yet to hear from any of you, except for Zamora and Cavazos.
Thank you, Trishante. William, second.
Hi, it's Joellen Onyx.
Joellen.
You're welcome.
Fletcher.
Yeah, Fletcher. So every day as a teacher, I am required to have my students recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and the very last line is justice for all. But I still have yet to see that ever across America, honestly, but now it's happening right here in our community. And I can't get down with this. Where is the justice? Where is the accountability? What is going on with this? This is insane. As a teacher, if I were to body slam a child to the ground, I would surely lose my job instantly. So why? And like she said, parents, same thing as a parent. But we can't treat our children like this. So why are they allowed to treat them? None of this is making any sense at all. So I would like that to resonate within you. Have a good night.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna move on to item 5.01. Upcoming meeting of Board of Trustees, Monday, February 27th at 5 p.m. here in the boardroom. Colleagues, are gonna move on to item 6, that's adjournment. Taking a motion, let's move this one.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Trustee McBride. Trustee Rice. Thank you, Trustee Rice. Colleagues, we have, ladies and gentlemen, we're still finishing our meeting. Thank you. Colleagues, we have a motion by Trustee Guzman, a second by Trustee Brooks. Please cast your vote. Trustee Williams, are you still on the line with us? Thank you. Colleagues, that motion passes 7-0, please, and have a great night. The time is 6:46, thank you.